anyone who tries to make a device to compete against the Steam Deck has a very tough time because this is a handheld gaming PC and it only costs $400. And a bunch of companies have tried, right? They've come out with devices that have had better hardware than the Steam Deck, but they've never had a compelling price. But recently, ASUS came into the studio and they said, we understand that this is a very competitive segment. We understand that everyone loves that $400 price point of the Steam Deck, but we have something that's even better. The ROG Ally, ASUS's new handheld gaming PC. So I've spent a little over a week with this device, and it is still just an early engineering sample, but I think they got a shot. I think this product does so much right, it just makes for a way better gaming experience than the Steam Deck. Let's start off with performance. So ASUS claims that this has double the performance of the Steam Deck, literally 2x. And I can't divulge into frame rate and stuff. I just took a little peek around and they told me I can't share it, but this is a brand new chip from AMD. It's hot off their press. It's a custom 4nm APU, Zen 4, RDNA 3. Now I don't know the naming and the kind of clock rate on this thing, but from what I've seen, I think the claims are legit. Now, arguably even more important than performance, I guess it complements performance, is the screen. So this screen is a 7-inch screen, same size, I guess, as the screen on the Steam Deck, but it's a way better screen. So this is a higher res screen than the Steam Deck. It's 1080p instead of 800p. It's significantly brighter, has way better colors, but the greatest thing, the display on the ROG Ally goes up to 120 Hz. It is such a different gaming experience when you're playing stuff with fluid visuals. See, last year when I reviewed the Steam Deck, this was impressive to me at the time to be able to get 50 or 60 frames per second. But to be able to get that, you had to be in 800p, and for a lot of games, you had to be in low graphics settings. But on the ROG Ally, games will comfortably hit way higher frame rates while on higher graphics settings. And for a lot of PC games, it's a very different game experience with those higher frame rates. I think this screen is awesome. It's just that you need really good hardware to be able to take advantage of it. You need a strong enough APU to allow the screen to flex. But there's one feature that legitimately blew me away about the Ally. It's the fan noise. So this has an incredibly quiet fan system. It almost doesn't even make sense. So on the Steam Deck, not that this has a crazy loud fan system, but if you're playing a demanding game, you can absolutely hear it going. And when you have loud fans, you have to crank up the speakers to be able to hear them over the fans, right? On the Ally, I legitimately thought that there was something wrong with this device. I had a fairly demanding game running and I couldn't hear the fans at all. I had to stick my ears right up to the top of the device and I was like, oh yeah, they're running. It's that quiet. So I've measured the Steam Deck to be around 37 decibels on load. On the Ally, it's 20 decibels. It's a huge drop. And the thing to keep in mind is that decibels is a logarithmic measurement, right? It's not a linear one. So if you drop it by if you lower it by 10 decibels, that is a perceived reduction in volume by half. It's half as loud when you go just 10 decibels. This is 16 or 17 decibels lower. It's a huge advantage on the Ally. It's also a smaller and lighter and flatter product compared to the Steam Deck. It still has a 7-inch screen, but I like that it's the more standard 16:9 aspect ratio instead of the 16:10. I think a lot of people that played Steam games on the Steam Deck, it would just be the black bars, right? Not every game can do 16:10, so I see the complaints once in a while. It doesn't bother me too much, but you won't have any of those issues with a 16:9 aspect ratio. Actually, now that I think about it, on the Ally, you do get a slightly larger displayed image because of the aspect ratio on games. Now, the controls feel noticeably different on the Ally than the Steam Deck. The buttons are nice and big. I love the way they feel. The sticks feel great, they're responsive and accurate, and the D-pad as well. There's 2 shoulder buttons on each side, but only 1 pair of back buttons, and there's a series of UI controlling buttons closer towards the center of the screen. Now, in terms of the layout and the ergonomics of it, I like the way that it feels on the Ally, but I don't think I've spent enough time on it to really tell if I have a preference. I've spent so much time on the Steam Deck that this just feels so familiar to me. On the Ally, the button and stick layout is kind of Xbox-like, but it sits very differently in your hands because it's so much flatter. There's no touchpad like we've seen on the Steam Deck. On the left and right here, they have those kind of capacitive, almost mouse replacements. I've always liked them. I've seen the argument being made that they'll never replace a mouse. You can't play a mouse-based game using just these very effectively. There's merit to that maybe, but I just think they add a lot of utility to the inputs. This doesn't have them. And it's also missing the hump on the back. Like it is a flatter device on the Ally, but these big humps on the back, they give this kind of super ergonomic grip to the product, to the Steam Deck, and this does not have that. The speakers are decent, but it's early software, so I'm not gonna comment too much on the product there. The software, so again, very early stages of their software, but I like it. Like, I like what I'm seeing. So it's a kind of custom version of their Armory crate. It has a game launcher, FPS counter, FPS limiter, performance mode controls, RGB lighting controls. They're definitely on the right track, but this software is clutch. Like, they have to nail this when it ships because this is running Windows 11, right? This isn't running a custom OS like the Steam Deck is. This is running Windows 11, which is great for customizability and freedom. Like, you can play all the games. It doesn't matter if you're playing like Battle.net, Epic, Steam, Xbox, Game Pass, like all of it is available on this device, but you lose that kind of super intuitive UI that SteamOS delivers. Up top, you got a headphone jack, a fast micro SD, your volume controls, fingerprint sensor, as well as a connection port to ASUS's external GPU product, the XG Mobile. So you can dock this and connect it up to their external GPU, and you now have a super powerful console. Part of that XG Mobile connection is a USB-C port, and it's the only USB-C port on this device. So you use it for charging or as a display out, and they do include a 65-watt charging adapter. Battery size and battery life, I don't know yet. Like, they told me this was such early hardware, there's no point even testing that stuff. But I imagine in terms of battery life, it'd be very similar to a Steam Deck in terms of just like wattage consumption. I did open it up and poked around, and there's just so much cool stuff going on in there. Like, I can't wait for the retail version of this to come out just so I can test it properly. Like, the thermal system seems really well designed. It sucks in air from the back, like, and it just kind of cools your hand in the process, and then it vents it out the top of the device. The SSD looks very easy to replace, and same with the sticks, like the joysticks. If you ever need to swap those out for whatever reason, it seems very simple to get in there. Now, there's one last thing I want to mention, and I think it's like potentially the most important thing about this product. So this, it's ASUS, and it's a global release. So unlike any other kind of high-end gaming handheld I've ever reviewed or seen, this is gonna be around the world everywhere. You don't need some like Kickstarter to get it or Indiegogo or like have to import it. Like, it's just gonna be available everywhere, including Best Buy. Now, here's the thing about this Best Buy availability. So Best Buy, they don't do volume purchases like this unless they think that this thing is gonna sell. Now, I asked ASUS multiple times about the price of this product, and they wouldn't give it to me. And I think this product, like the success of the Ally, hinges so heavily on its price tag. Because if this thing is super expensive, no one's gonna buy it, right? And I think if it's priced well, it's such a massive success. Like, the way I see it is this: like, if this thing can hit, I don't think it's gonna be $400. It can't, like, you can't match the price of the Steam Deck. I wouldn't be surprised if Valve loses money on each Steam Deck still at that $400 price point, because they're making the revenue back on their sales, right? Did you know that Valve gets 30% of every game they sell? I never realized that until like a couple years ago. It was like 30%. It's so much. Obviously, ASUS can't do that. But I think if this thing hits like 600, 650, like all the features you get for this thing, I think that'd be a winner. I think that'd be a huge W for it. I don't know. I don't know the price, but they told me, the one thing they told me, very competitive pricing is what I've been told. Okay, I hope this thing is well priced because this is super cool. There you have it, the Ally.